specifically saying, here's our formal offer, and then another team coming in with a much higher offer by all accounts. I don't know if I get the point. I'm not too concerned with these reports of team not making offer to player before player leaves kind of thing. I think that's more just like teams knowing what the situation is and he's out the door, right? What was it yesterday before this all, or is after this happened? It sounded like Stearns was signaling to Mets beat reporters that he was all but gone. I think you brought that up yesterday. Yeah. I'm not too worried about that specific side.
Yeah, it's a he said, she said. But to me, Dan, Boston probably had a 4 for 120 on Boris's lap a minute and a half after the World Series ended. Truly, and probably before that, but wink, wink, whatever. My guess was the Mets were outplayed a minute into free agency, because if they were never going to go more than 3 years, which Stearns has been pretty vocal about with Pete Alonso's situation, it was 5 2 years ago, it was 4 last year, and it's probably 3 this year, right? That just logically makes sense. They were probably outbid by Boston in terms of term right out of the gate, which now became, who else is willing to go big? I think the Cubs were in a bit. It sounds like the Blue Jays sniffed around this a little bit, maybe not so much this offseason. But Boston and Baltimore came down to, it appears to be a 1-2 punch. And there was some confirmation of that yesterday when it was uncovered that Alonso actually showed up to the winter meetings and met with both those teams in person and had the kind of back and forth that Scott Boras feeds off of, right? So if it was 4 for 120 walking into yesterday morning, it was simply just a matter of who's going to give us 5. The interesting part to me is that it's 5 for 155. Okay. How important do you think it was to Scott Boras to get $1 million per year more than Kyle Schwarber, who is a DH?
Oh, I have no doubt there's some significance.
That was a big part of this, right? Pete Alonso's a full-time first baseman, and he needs to be paid more than a full-time DH, right?
Right, and that might be I hate to say it, Baltimore fans, but that might be a Baltimore tax too. Like, he's not coming there unless you blow that out of the water, right? Yeah. If he got that deal from the Mets, or if he got the 150 from the Mets, that might not have been in there, right? But I totally agree. Yeah.
Where are we with the first baseman market? Because Vlad Jr. did very, very well. Age was a big factor. Timing was a big factor on that Vlad Jr. extension, which is north of $35 million a year, $500 million in total value. Pete finally did get his 5 at 30 a year, which is kind of where his market value has been for 3.5 off seasons, Dan, right? And he finally got it at age 31. That's a pretty good tax adjusted version of what Freddie Freeman did 3 years ago in his free agent move from Atlanta to the Dodgers. So mathematically, we're sort of all where we belong. Do you think that it's fine? Or do you believe that this is a bit of an anomaly, that it's cyclical, that it's kind of like the running back stuff in football where you're going to have your Barkleys and your Jahmyr Gibbs every now and then? But for the most part, 95% of this position is going down to, below average or an average small term contract for the most part.
Yeah, I'd say these are mostly outliers. This Pete Alonso deal could very well look bad, as a lot of people have hinted at over the last couple of years in terms of the hesitancy for teams to sign him to this deal. So is it a good move for him and the Orioles? I think yes right now, but it could age very poorly.